My name is Jordan Wiegand, and this is Enter Flash Time, where we slow time down, examine, and take an in depth look at each episode of the Arrowverse series, The Flash, and any episode he may appear in the larger universe. Today's episode is The Scientists, the 8th episode of the second season of Arrow, and the 31st episode overall. We are starting there because that episode is also known as Barry Allen's first appearance in the Arrowverse. And my guest today is Lance Laster from Always Hold On to Arrow. Hello, Lance. Thank you for coming on. How are you today?
I'm good. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah. People may also know you from your many visits on Always Hold On to Smallville. That's where I
Yeah,
was first introduced to you
cool.
on. But so I guess let's just get into it on like what got you into the Flash, or in this case, Arrow, and the Arrowverse as a whole. Like, were you watching from day one? What made you check it out? All that good, fun stuff.
Oh, I was locked in from day one, and mostly just because this was the next show to come out after Smallville, and so still off of that, working off that Smallville high, and found out that there was going to be a Green Arrow show, and of course, Green Arrow was a huge component of the latter half of Smallville,
Right.
and so definitely intrigued by what they were going to do. Was a little bit disappointed initially because it was not Justin Hartley, who we'd all kind of grown
Right.
attached to
Right.
on Smallville. But Steven quickly won me over. Really loved and fell in love with the first season, and was singing its praises to anybody that would listen. And then when season two comes around, and you have this episode, The Scientist, that's basically a backdoor pilot for the
Hmm.
Flash. That was a game changer. You can make the argument that this is the most important episode of the Arrowverse, because if this doesn't work, the whole thing doesn't work. The universe doesn't work, and the universe that they set up, where that was, this grounded and gritty type of thing based off of the Dark Knight. But
Right.
a small budget on the CW using Green Arrow instead of Batman. They made a point to not really show a whole lot of fantastical things, and then all of a sudden we were introducing this fantastical element. How's that going to work? And they actually made it work. And again, without this episode, the Arrowverse as we know it does not exist. We don't get Flash, which means we don't get Legends of Tomorrow, which means we don't get Supergirl. Which down the line means we don't get Superman and Lois,
Right.
which is crazy to think about. But this is a very important episode, and it's one of my favorites.
Yeah. I mean, this is for me. I didn't start watching until just a couple years ago, 2023 actually. So
Oh
this
wow,
is
okay.
Yeah, I was a big Smallville fan. So you kind of alluded to it, right? Where you were a little nervous or not as interested without it being Justin Hartley. And
Hmm.
I was that spectrum where I was like, if it's not Justin Hartley, I don't want it, right?
Yeah, I think I actually said that too, like at some point.
Yeah, so I didn't watch it. And then, of course I heard buzz about it. I'd seen some clips of it, or, um, I lived in Florida for a time working at Disney World for like two stints as a internship, and
No fun.
my one batch of roommates were watching Arrow season 2 when it was on Netflix, after it dropped on Netflix over there.
Okay.
So this is like early 2015. And they had actually watched the episode. I think it was right before this one, where they're in the courtroom with
Hmm.
Moira and everything. And I saw bits of that episode.
Okay.
Um, and it looked interesting, but I was still kind of like, I don't know, right, type of thing. And then
Hmm.
my other roommate was a big Flash fan. My roommate Diego, shout out if you're listening. He, was watching it weekly, catching up as season one was going on at the time, and uh, I just I liked Flash. He was actually one of my favorites in the Justice League series
Okay.
as a kid, and I always loved that it was Michael Rosenbaum because he was my favorite Lex, and
Oh
you
yeah.
had the whole Smallville connection with that, and I loved when like Bart showed up in Smallville, so that kind of stuff. I kind of eventually, once we got to like 2021, I was watching Smallville again. I was rewatching it. I introduced it to my wife, and she got real into it, and we're watching it. We watched all 10 seasons.
Very cool.
And I'm like homesick on Valentine's Day 2023, and I was in a DC mood, and I was like, do I start Smallville again? where I'm scrolling through Netflix and I see my list where I had Arrow for a long time, and I was like, I could dive into this, like let's do it. So that day I was sick from work. I binged 7 episodes, and just 4 days later, on the 18th, I was watching this episode, The Scientist, of
Oh
episode
wow.
8 of season 2. So got into it quick, and then this is like I had bought a Green Arrow shirt. I was actually going to wear it, but I have this green screen, and it does not go with the green.
Gotcha.
But I bought that, and I was like really excited. But really, it was this episode, I think, that really I knew like he was going to show up in it, Barry, and once he did, I felt like everything started getting more and more interesting. Right, like I
Hmm.
loved the first season of Arrow. I thought season 2 was cool. We had the introduction to Barry here. And at that point, I was like, can I just finish season 2 so I can start watching Flash? After
Okay.
like Grant Gustin won me over immediately in this episode
Okay.
where I was ready to just get to Flash. So, but yeah, so I watched like every episode of the Arrowverse within a year
Cool.
uh, before Valentine's Day of 2024. And really loved the Flash the most. But this is where his journey starts. So this is
Hmm.
where we're going to be diving into now. Um, but yeah, so I guess let's get into the episode. As previously stated, this is episode 8 of season 2 of Arrow,
Yeah.
which the story by Greg Berlanti and Andrew Kreisberg, teleplay by Andrew Kreisberg and Geoff Johns, and directed by Michael Schultz, and it aired December 4th, 2013. Okay. I'm frozen. Okay, we're good.
Okay.
And the official synopsis here is from Futon Critic. I found that they usually post the official synopsis, but this is very long. So, a seemingly impossible robbery at Queen Consolidated's Applied Scientist Division brings Central City police scientist Barry Allen to town. Citing a similar case back home, Barry offers to help Oliver and team with the investigation. Oliver senses there is more to Barry than meets the eye, but he's distracted by the similarities between this current case and something that happened on the island. Meanwhile, Felicity takes a liking to Barry, which doesn't go unnoticed by Oliver. Sin asks Roy to help with a friend of hers who goes missing. Roy is surprised when Thea not only encourages him to help, but joins the search. Unfortunately, Sin's friend is connected to Brother Blood, and their search ultimately gets one of them seriously injured. Okay. So I guess before we dive into like the, beats by beats of the episode, do you remember like what the reaction was, what like when this was announced? Were people very excited for this, or was there ever any sort of like maybe Arrow hardcore fans that were like, we don't want the meta human stuff interfering with our show?
Honestly, from where I was and where I was sitting with this, I think everybody was pretty much on board. I think there was a little bit of skepticism about like how it was going to work, but there was a lot of intrigue and there was a lot of hype and a lot of positivity around the promise of this premise, right? Around the fact that like we're having Barry Allen, it's like, and like, what does this mean moving forward? I don't think people realized that it was going to be a backdoor pilot, but I think people were just excited for the world building at the very least, that he was going to be introduced. So from where I was sitting, everybody seemed to be kind of on board and excited about this.
Yeah, I remember like the news about it. I don't
Hmm.
remember much of, I guess, the fan reaction of it, but I remember like hearing like, oh, he's going to appear and that they're going to be doing a show on the Flash eventually, all this kind of stuff, and then it just spiraled, out of there. How many
Well,
shows
yeah, and
they
that's the
saw?
thing because like they had the other promo stuff ready to go. I'm pretty sure, and I remember like I think I have the back when they used to have TV. Like I think they still had TV guides back
Hmm.
then. Like like on the last legs of TV Guide. But I remember there was a cover of the two of them on like in costume, and it was just like this is everything we dreamed of. Like
Right, right,
because this is stuff we hadn't gotten at any point, especially as DC fans. We hadn't gotten something like this, like an actual Flash and
right.
an actual Flash costume with the Green Arrow and like an actual like we hadn't gotten that anywhere. So it was exciting.
Yeah, especially like at that time, we didn't have, the MCU was huge at this time.
Yes.
We didn't have the DC side of that really taking off theatrically at that time. Like
No.
like you said, the Dark Knight trilogy had just wrapped up. Man of Steel had just premiered like maybe 6 months before this
Hmm.
episode aired, or a couple months before this episode had aired. Um, so yeah, this was kind of like that. It felt like they were trying to do this quite a few times during Smallville, right? We got like the Aquaman pilot that they tried to lift off the ground for a while. Um, and then just kind of throwing in characters throughout the time of Smallville, but none of them really got to this level of, uh, you know, Impulse is wearing like a red hoodie, right?
Yeah.
Like they're not like actually like comic accurate suits and everything. So this was like a big game changer, uh, television wise, and also I would just say like having a cohesive universe for the DC fans, which at that time uh, wasn't really a thing.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, so I guess let's get into the episode here. So this is actually, I forgot this as I was watching it. It's really only second time I'm revisiting this episode, but that
Mhm.
this is the official like first ever metahuman type case in an Arrow uh episode, right? Like that
Yes.
they were so grounded, kind of revisiting this show at this point was, I had to kind of like play catch up again when I'm like, oh, Roy's in this part of the show still,
Hmm.
and Moira Queen is here, and like Summer Glau shows up, and I had to familiarize
Isabel
myself with her
Rochev.
character again.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, I was like, oh man, I have to like re look up all this stuff, and then it's very different, like I don't know what possessed me to want to do this part on the podcast where I'm going in order of his appearances, because the flashbacks on the island then really threw me out for a loop of like trying to play catch up again of like, oh, this is where he is right now, on
Hmm.
the island with Sarah already on there with him again, and meeting Slade and all of that. So that was just kind of like a thing I had to get over when I was revisiting is, oh, like where are we in the time frame when I'm jumping back into this universe? But
Hmm.
I do miss the vibe of like this early Arrow part of the show.
Yeah.
Um, like what would you say is like the best season of Arrow if you were ranking them?
This one, season 2.
Season 2. Yeah, I think I had season 1 or season 2. I don't. I'd have to go back and actually probably rewatch them all, but
Hmm.
I had those two as definitely probably the best seasons.
Okay.
Maybe 2. Yeah, I might agree with you on that one. But it kind of goes off the rails at a certain point, and then
Yeah.
course corrects itself again, and then
There's a pull up.
has a,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah,
And like some of the other shows did not have a pull up, so thankful
right,
that they did.
yeah, yeah. No, it was pretty good. And then the weirdest part, right, is that like the final season, you know, not to go too far, I guess, off track, though, but just like the final season of the show um has episodes after he has died, right? And it's
Yes.
like kind of like a very odd, like if you're just a Arrow fan, watching
Yes.
the show and you watch the crossover or whatever. Um, oh, that was something I did actually in 2020. I watched Crisis because I was very excited about Tom Welling coming back. So
Okay.
I jumped into Crisis without having watched any of these other shows, and it was very confusing, but I still enjoyed it. But that was one thing I knew then, that Oliver was going to, die at the end. But
Yeah.
so I was not no spoilers for me there.
There you go.
Um, but yeah, so we get the intro here where it's like the Queen Consolidated Warehouse. Somebody knocks on the door. Then it's this super powered individual who is breaking down the door and chokes out a guard, kills another guard, and we get the infamous Arrow title card. And then
Hmm.
we get Moira Queen showing up in her office again, and her and Felicity have like this very awkward exchange.
They don't like each
This
other.
is prime Felicity, early season Felicity here, just always
Hmm.
awkward exchanges
Yes.
really made me miss like that early stage Felicity.
Yeah.
Were people rooting for them back then to get together, or were everybody waiting for Laurel and him to end up together?
So back then, it was just like she was just like the cute one in the team. I don't think people were rooting for them to get together. Um,
Mm,
like maybe like a short fling or something at the most. But I don't. But there was nobody that was like actively really pushing Endgame yet until they decided to make the push after the
mm,
finale of season 2. That's where it really kind of started. Because you've seen it, so like that's when
yeah, yeah,
that's the genesis of it. But it was kind of cute that she was like his money penny, right? And I think people
right,
like
right, right,
that for a little bit. But then with the whole fake out that happens in at the end of season 2, people were wondering, it's like, oh well, did Oliver really mean it? It's like, what if, like, well, let's
right, right.
explore that, and then they do kind of explore it, and then it becomes Endgame, and so uh, yeah, that's what happened there.
Yeah. I'm actually somebody that doesn't mind Felicity and Oliver ending up together, I guess, because
Hmm.
I liked Felicity a lot. I think it helps binging a show, honestly, than like going through the week to week sometimes, because I feel like some of the complaints people had for some of these characters in both shows, Flash and Arrow and stuff,
Hmm.
kind of get smoothed over when I'm able to just push play on the next episode and not worry about the
That does help.
like there's actually 2 weeks off and now I have to sit here and wait for this cliffhanger, or this character really annoyed me this week,
Yeah.
type of thing. So I'll be really curious as I go through this, as I'm now watching it weekly or every other week, depending on how long I'm recording these. But
Yeah.
if that changes my perception at all, and if I start to notice some of those cracks in some of these shows more than what I did the first time. Um, but yeah, so like Felicity and her have this awkward exchange. Summer Glau, this is where she comes in and is Isabel Rochev, and she kind of tells Oliver it may not be best to have Moira here, especially after her
Your
trial
trial.
where she was acquitted, which is Oliver's defense. Oh, she was acquitted.
Yeah.
Let's smooth that over. And
Hmm.
still not a great look in the
No.
eyes of the public. But then Diggle comes in and tells him about the information that happened in the cold open with the
Hmm.
break-in. And this is where we get our introduction to Barry Allen, where he is getting off of a train and into the rain with clouds and lightning above him,
Yep.
maybe foreshadowing his
Not ominous at
future
all.
here. Yes.
Not subtle at all either.
Yeah, I have a question for you. Do you think this line was intentional? So Captain Lance says that they thought there was 3 to 4 people, but they were very fat, or that they had to have been fast, and then it cuts immediately to Barry.
Yeah.
Because I'm
That
like,
was
that,
intentional.
yeah, I feel like that was intentional too.
Oh yeah.
I didn't notice it the first time, I guess, because they're not referring to him, but just saying that they were fast, and immediately cuts to Barry. I was like, oh, I see what they're doing there
Hmm.
then. Barry chimes in and says, oh no, it's only the one person, and that he states he is working with a similar case in Central City, and that his captain sent him here. We're gonna find out that was a lie
Yes.
later on. And then he also tells them what the guy had taken, which was a centrifuge. And Felicity and him share a bit of a moment, and this is something that they seem to have been testing out a bit, teasing a bit,
They
not
were.
just in these episodes, but like even when she comes to visit him in the season 1 of The Flash, it seems like they
Hmm.
have
They had good
thoughts of.
chemistry.
They do, like, the actors have very good chemistry. What were your thoughts on their relationship here?
I thought it was fun. And who know? Like, this is obviously a very young Barry Allen, so it would be cool if like the two science nerds got together. That would have been fun.
Yeah, I wish they probably would have explored this a little bit more than they did, but I think that's kind of sometimes the problems you have when you have, I guess, two shows with people that have really great chemistry, but they can't cross over like every week, really. So
Yeah.
it kind of becomes a problem of like, do we move her over to his show, or does he come into ours more? And it
Hmm.
just kind of fizzles out a bit. Especially once they set up, her and Oliver together.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think you're right. They had very good chemistry, and it was something that I was really hoping they would explore a little bit more.
Mm-hmm.
We get a little bit of a flashback that I mentioned earlier with like Sarah, Slade, Shada, and Oliver going through the jungle. And then we go back to the consolidated building, and they show the security footage that shows it is just one man carrying
Yep.
the centrifuge. And Barry comes in asking where he can set up his equipment. Oliver looks very confused. Felicity had told them that they wanted to keep this on the down low, and he cleared it with his captain that he was going to be working with them. Diggle has this interesting exchange with Oliver where we kind of start to see that Oliver may actually have experience with this before, when he says, "Why do I get the feeling you know more about this than Felicity's new friend?" And Oliver says, "Pray I'm wrong." So Oliver at this time is starting to get suspicions this is related to the Mirakuru from the island.
Which is, again, this was back when, the flashbacks were still hitting really, really well. And this was, like, everything was incredibly intentional, more intentional than they were, like, afterwards. And it was so well finely crafted, and there was so much intrigue with the flashbacks. And so at this particular point in time, it's like, oh, well, all we knew was that, like, he was 5 years in hell, and he had mentioned earlier that he wasn't on the island the whole time. But it's just like, oh, so what did he encounter? And this was all very exciting. It was like, oh, well, what else did he know? What else does he know?
Right.
So that's the intrigue of it all. It plays into how well this works and why it works.
Yeah, like I think the flashbacks were interesting because you're thinking, how long can they keep this going? It's kind of what people thought about Lost at certain points too, right? Like, how long can you keep these flashbacks going? And they had to change them up, and Arrow kind of had to do some of the same stuff with that. But the fact is, when they introduce like Slade and stuff, you're like, oh, like this is very interesting that they have this whole other aspect of the island that we didn't even think of. I think it's cool that they kind of like retroactively made it where Oliver has experience with something more supernatural than so maybe for him it's not completely out of left field after being so grounded for the first like year and a half of his show.
Yeah, well, it keeps like, it makes the world feel like it's still big, right?
Yes,
because like, if everybody was having powers and everything, that just kind of makes it really, really small, and it doesn't make it as meaningful. But here, it makes it it's more meaningful that, like, he had one like encounter of this on a place that, like, nobody wants to go to, and like only he kind of knows about and very
right
about. So again, it keeps the intrigue, and it keeps you on your toes. It's just good writing in that regard.
Yeah, we have a short scene at the mansion with Moira, Roy, Oliver, and Thea. Then we get to Barry setting up his lab with Felicity, and they find a sample from the shoe, and it turns out it is sugar when they run it through their machine. But Barry kind of starts having some, I guess, like secondary motivation come out here, where he starts asking Felicity about if she's seen the vigilante, and starts just peppering her with questions, like, oh, you must have seen him because I saw your report about this, or you saw him before, going in with that, asking her questions like, why green? Black would be better for stealth. I think that's a great like meta question, right?
Yes.
And then she's like, why are you so interested? And we get this really nice exchange here where Barry brings up his mother's death, and that they never caught the guy who did it, and hoping that maybe he would be able to do so by finding similar cases like this.
Yeah.
One thing that's just really mind-blowing, I think, is at this point Flashpoint was still only like a 3-year-old comic when they're doing this, so it's still a relatively new like
concept.
Backstory for Barry Allen.
Absolutely.
Yeah, just because I feel like I've kind of just known I don't even know how I was first aware of the Flashpoint because I didn't read it.
Did you watch the animated movie?
I did. I did watch them. I've watched that probably twice now, but I watched that one. I think it was just one day on Netflix. It was on there
Okay.
before I started watching this show and everything, and I was just wanting a DC fix, and I was like, oh, they have Flashpoint on here. I hear great things about the comic and the movie. Let's just watch this. But I think I'd already known about that
Okay.
backstory. Maybe just from like osmosis of being online in the comic fandom, knowing that
That's
change.
that's highly likely.
Yeah, but still, it is amazing that it's really, still such a new concept at this time, and I didn't realize that until you look up the publishing date of Flashpoint, which was like 2010. You're like, dang, that's not that long ago.
I know.
But yeah, so I guess at this point, people don't know how they're going to approach Barry. So technically, this would be the first little inkling of, oh, they're going with the Flashpoint origin.
Yeah.
Which makes sense too, because Geoff Johns was part of the story on this episode.
He was the man at this point, so it makes sense.
Yeah. Have you watched? Did you watch all of Stargirl?
Yeah.
I love Stargirl. That's really
I did too.
show.
I adore Stargirl. Stargirl was great.
That show was so surprising. I finished it after I watched all these. I was like, oh, I guess I'll throw that one in there now. It's not technically Arrowverse, but I'll watch it. And
it was a
blown away.
It was a true love letter to DC.
Yeah.
In ways that so many other things are not.
He did such a good job, like show running that show for like, it's just like totally different jobs, comic writer, and then showrunner. Like to be able to switch mediums like that is pretty cool.
I agree.
But yeah, no, I was really surprised by that show. So if you're listening to this, check it out if you haven't.
I highly recommend it.
Yeah. I just bought I think like a sale on Fandango at home had it for like $30 around Christmas time. So complete series, look for deals if you're interested, people. Or HBO Max. It's on there.
Yeah, there's that.
We get Thea and Roy. That's where they meet with Sin, who tells Roy that she is missing her friend named Max, I believe. Mm-hmm. And that sets Roy down his path to start looking for him. Moira and Malcolm have this exchange. This was something that I had kind of totally forgotten about until this popped up. That they just had this, realization, I guess, that Thea is also his daughter.
Yes.
And
the soap opera drama had to come through some kind of way.
He wants to, he wants to have a relationship with Thea, and Moira's like, no, she loved Robert. Please don't take that away from her.
Yeah.
And he's like, she's all I have left. Tell her sooner, rather than later. And he's out. He's gone. But yeah, that was something I was like, I knew of it, but totally forgot it was at this point in the show's run.
Lots happens on this show.
Yes. Yeah. Kind of similar to Smallville, where they'll throw in some of that stuff occasionally. I was watching some of season 10 for like our for one of my other podcasts. We were doing a Superman Sunday as we were leading up to James Gunn's Superman, and I was watching season 10, and my wife was in there coming in and out. She's like, man, this show got off the rails at times. And I was like, yeah, it did. And, there's some stuff like that in these shows as well. But still relatively grounded at this point. But like you said, some soap opera type stuff going on. Barry and Felicity update Oliver. And then the suspect had made another robbery. Oliver kind of probes here, like, you say you're working on another case like this in Central City, and Barry's like, yeah, similar. Obviously he's lying here. It's obvious to Oliver as well, but it's obvious to us now that this is a straight up lie, and he's just kind of referring to his mom's case here. We get Oliver chasing the sugar truck, which is then we get like this fight scene, right, that is starting on him on like the motorcycle, and then translating over into the truck and on the windshield, and just a really cool fight scene for a network television.
The fight scenes
show
were always incredible on this show. It's unfortunate they did not get the recognition
Yeah.
it deserved for as good as they were.
Yeah. I know, like, you mentioned sometimes on both your shows, right? Like,
Mm-hmm.
that the Arrow scenes in Smallville are a little slower,
Slow Arrow.
right, than than the ones in this show. I was just watching the 1977 Amazing Spider-Man pilot.
Mm-hmm.
Um, very slow action scenes, like stunt guys
Oh, I bet.
waiting for the punch to land and everything. So this was a much different, pace for me after watching that. I was like, oh, this is an actual fight scene. But yeah, so he uses an arrow and like stabs the guy driving the car, and this is something that he's going to be able to get like a blood sample for. Then we kind of go to the arrow cave.
The bunker at this point.
Yes, yeah, the little bunker, where I'm trying to understand my notes here. Oh, okay, yeah, he says to Diggle, you were right. I knew more than I was letting on. I saw someone with that strength before on the island. He talks about Dr. Ivo, and what did you learn about Barry? He says he's not who he says he is. And then we get another flashback, where they're finding the ship on the island.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, that might be one right before that one. But anyway, Felicity and Barry get the sample from the blood from the arrow, and Felicity makes it very clear she's actually not dating Oliver, right? Like, Barry's
Yes,
probing, seeing if there's a possibility here.
mm-hmm. He's
A
doing his due
little
diligence.
another reference to him being the Flash eventually when he says he's not good on his feet, I feel like, here.
Yes,
But he mentions he can't dance,
which is a
and he's
blatant
not
lie,
good
but
on his feet.
that was mostly a joke, an in joke for the people who followed him from Glee, because that's what
Oh,
he did.
right, right,
That's
right.
what he did right before this, which is another reason why people were excited, because this was back in Glee's heyday, and so the absolute height of the popularity of that show, and he was like a bad guy on that show,
Oh,
and
right,
so
I
people
heard about that.
and so people were excited that like he was coming over. So, and not the first time that the CW and the Arrowverse dipped into the Glee well for one of their stars.
Yeah, I heard there's a pretty good pipeline with those. Who
There
who
is
else is in?
Supergirl, Melissa Benoist.
Oh yeah, she was on Glee.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't watch Glee. My wife watched Glee. But
Okay.
so like sometimes if I'm watching this, my wife will be like, "Who is that person?" And she looks them up. She's like, "Oh, they're from Glee."
Yep.
That
And
was
some
one of her
Flash
shows.
and a couple of Flash villains also were on there as well.
It's so interesting how some of these character actors, will just go around. They get found and then they get onto the next network show like immediately after.
Yeah, it's kind of how the business works.
Because Glee was still running, right, at this time?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Um. Okay. So Roy and Thea. Roy finds a pamphlet for the blood drive when they're investigating the apartment, and finds out it was like a week ago, and that's how long Max has been gone. So they leave, and we have like this officer who's watching them, and he's going to be calling Blood Brother on the phone. Just somebody keeping tabs on them there. Barry and Felicity. We get a nice little reference here at the Central City on the news. Central City's particle accelerator is going to be
Mm-hmm.
turning on soon, and Barry and Felicity are having like a back and forth about if it's a good thing or a bad thing, or if it causes more issues. Oliver drops in, and this is where he kind of mentions he did some background checking on Barry, and that his bosses didn't even know he was in Starling City, which I totally forgot it was not Star City at this point still.
Yep.
Barry says he's trying to find out who killed his mom, and we get the more backstory here where Oliver says your dad did. He's in prison for it, and Felicity is like, wait, I thought you said the police never found who did it. And this exchange here from Barry, I really like this line here where it says the police think they did. My dad's been serving a life sentence. They don't believe me. I was 11. One night, something just came into our house like a tornado, a blur. Somewhere inside the blur, I saw a person. My dad went to fight him. I went to get him when suddenly I was 20 blocks away from our house, and they think I was trying to cover for my father.
Yeah.
Maybe if I can make sense of this one case, maybe I can find who really killed my mother and free my dad. So we get, the heroic motivation behind our secret guest star here of Barry Allen.
Yep. And then again, tying into the Flashpoint portion of everything. They just like explicitly come out and be like, yeah, this is it. This is how we're going to do this character.
And a little bit, they have to kind of walk back some of this because I don't think his dad actually goes to fight the Blur in the pilot. So I think they kind of, once they start writing the actual script for the pilot and they start figuring out how they want to go with it, things change. But mostly lines up with everything. Even the part where he's 20 blocks away from his house, like it's a very on par with what we see in the first episode of the show.
Yep.
Then we get the party at the mansion. Roy gets a call that Max's body was found. He lies to Thea and says that he wasn't found and suggests she stays there while he goes and takes care of something. Felicity is a little cold towards Oliver about, when he's like, hey, you want to dance? And she's like, I'm not sure I really want to dance with you.
Mm-hmm.
And Oliver says, well, that's why I called him. And we get Barry walking in.
My favorite line of this is Oliver going, it's like, just FYI, they will card him at the bar.
I wrote that line down, so I was going to say that if you didn't bring it up. That's good. It was a good line. And we get a nice dance scene with Felicity and Barry.
Yep.
Isabel, comes in and talks to Oliver at the bar. We get Moira watching. Then Isabel and Moira having, a conversation. Or Moira comes over when Oliver leaves. He comes back over. Just kind of getting all these characters in the mix here at this party.
Yes. Lots of interesting interactions going on.
Yes. Flashback. We get the boat on the water. Slade is really struggling. They said he doesn't have long.
Nope.
So they go through the ship and they find the Mirakuru.
Yep.
And, he wants to give it to him. They say, wait. I think Sarah is the one that says we need to give him a sedative first.
Yes.
Which they don't have.
Correct.
They don't have any. So they say he'll die. And they're like, well, he's dying anyway. So let's just see how it goes, right? Why not test it? Back to the party. Oliver gets a call from Felicity, and Moira talks to Thea. It's setting it up where she's going to talk to Thea about her real father, potentially, but she kind of chickens out and just says, I love you, which Thea, reciprocates and says, I love you too.
Yep.
They're starting to have, a good relationship again here.
Yeah, it's been a while since they had one, so yeah.
Yeah, it's like, why mess this up, right? Because, that's the thing. Like, you would think Thea might be upset at just, like, the, I guess, connotation of what it is, but she would also take it out on Moira as well.
Yes.
Like, you hid this from me. Your standard Secret and Lies type of CW plot. We get Barry on the phone with Captain Singh, saying he needs to go back to Central City. We leave from there. Cops say that Max OD'd. Which Sin is like, wait, that doesn't make any sense. Max gave blood, so he couldn't be an addict because they wouldn't take his blood.
Yeah.
If he was on drugs. Roy just kind of like goes through and just takes his phone out and just takes a straight up photo of this body. Nobody really stops him, but the cop that we saw watching them earlier comes in and says, hey, like, get out of here. At the lab, Felicity relays the info that it was ketamine, and Oliver suits up. And he says, I beat someone like this before, Felicity. I can do it again. She's a little worried about him. And before, Barry actually had a really good, when he was talking with Felicity, I forgot to mention this. He talks about like the different type of material that could be made out of arrows that would make it more durable and make it...
his suit, yeah.
Yeah. And that kind of comes back around because what happens is Oliver is going to get pretty beat up here that they're
Yes,
going
he
to have to
is.
bring Barry back. But before that, we get another flashback where Oliver's telling Slade, like, hey, this can save you or it can kill you. We don't know which one. And just injects it into Slade.
Mm-hmm.
Roy calls Oliver and shows him the photo of the body.
Oh, that's right,
And he
because
says,
Roy's like his CI at this
yes.
point.
He's like, I know, that's what I was trying to figure out as I'm watching this too. I'm like, how much does he know at this point? When does he start getting his red suit? I guess that's next season or later this
It's
season.
season 3, yeah.
Season 3. He says, you told me to be your eyes and ears on the street.
Mm-hmm.
He says, then we're done. I don't need you, is what Oliver says. And Roy's like, I don't need you to. I don't need you. I can go investigate this myself. And
Yeah.
Oliver's like, I can slow you down. And he shoots Roy in the leg.
Yep.
Brutal. Who needs friends, right? Who needs enemies when you have friends like that, I guess. We get another talk with Moira and Malcolm where she says, you will not talk to Thea. You will not step foot in this house again. And then, she mentions that he had actually slipped up when he was talking about in their last conversation about like where he had went to originally.
Mm-hmm.
And she mentions Ra's al Ghul.
Yep.
Is this our first mention of him in the show?
No.
No? Okay. But she did tell him that Malcolm was alive. So she's like, somebody's going to be coming to look for you. So get out of here. Oliver is at the warehouse. We get a fight scene. Oliver ends up with something injected into him. We get the flashback where Slade is like freaking out, bleeding from his eyes. He stops breathing. And then we have like Dr. Ivo's people burst in.
Yep.
And then that's the last bit of the flashback we're going to see. Felicity and Diggle come in and see Oliver down. Diggle wants to call 911. Felicity says they can't because then everybody will know Oliver is the vigilante.
Mm-hmm.
And we get another scene at the train station where Barry is late
waiting.
again,
Yep.
missed the last train, and then is shot with a dart. And he wakes up in the bunker. He sees Green Arrow injured, and Felicity says, please save my friend.
Yep.
Title card, cliffhanger.
Love it.
Here. Yeah, but that's the episode here. So really, Bill, I kind of forgot where it left off for like this podcast. I was sitting there like, we don't have much longer. Like, where does this end off? And yeah,
well, it leads into like probably one of my favorite overall episode of Arrow, Three Ghosts.
Yes, yeah.
So yeah, no, again, season 2, every single episode was a hit. Bullseyes all around.
Now, I do have a tally board, which I'm calling the Star Labs dry erase board.
Okay.
We don't have many here, but I think the only thing we have is, because most of these are going to come from the tropes of the Flash series.
Okay.
But I would say I have a tally for Barry being late, and I'm going to go ahead and mark it down for him being late.
Because he was.
For the last train.
Okay.
So let me write that down. I was like, I don't know if I'm going to have any of these, but just kind of crossed my mind there. Very late one. What I'm going to have is Wells, a new Wells variant showing up when we get to those. Not the fastest man alive, anytime a new speedster shows up.
I like that.
Hallway talks. Anytime the characters have a heart-to-heart in the hallway.
Yeah.
Name game, when Cisco names a villain.
Cool.
Particle accelerator metas, anytime a villain who got their powers from the particle accelerator.
Okay.
New 52, the number of times they say the number 52, because they love...
I like it. This was that time.
Barry being late, like I said. Time travel shenanigans, anytime they go back in time or go to the future. And Anytime they say "Run, Barry, run," and I'm gonna also mark down who said it, and I'm
Okay.
gonna figure out who says it the most in the run of the show.
Cool.
I have Multiverse of Madness, plots or references revolving around the multiverse.
Cool.
That'll be very season 2 heavy, I'm assuming. Anytime Barry says I'm not fast enough. Open secret, the people who know Barry's secret. Number of people. And then later, I guess, how many times they say crisis and how many times they say flashpoint. Those are going to come later in time.
Okay, cool. I like those.
Thank you. But yeah, so today just Barry late, but hopefully we'll get more of those. Maybe not even the next episode, but the pilot. The pilot should have a few of those.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so let's get to our ratings here for the episode. I have a 5, kind of like a 5-star system. This will be the first episode that people are going to hear this, so I guess I should explain what that is.
Okay.
We have a rating scale 1 to 5, listed after Barry's speeds. So we have Mach 1 being the number 1. So if you give this a 1, Mach 2 for number 2, Mach 3, you guessed it, that is if you rated a 3 out of 5. Speed of light, if you rate this a 4 out of 5, or enter flash time, the name of the podcast, and the slowest speed that, like the speed where he can really slow things down, for a 5 out of 5. This show on IMDb was an 8.9 out of 10. So Lance, I ask you, on a 1 to 5 scale here, Mach 1 to enter flash time, what are you rating this?
I'm gonna give it enter flash time. This is a really good episode.
Enter flash time. Okay. I think I have to agree, even just for the case that it's his first appearance. But I do, it really is just, like I said, I think this is kind of the point where, I was in, I was, like I said, I binged all of season 1 and was almost halfway through season 2 in the span of 4 days.
Yeah.
But this is really where I started to feel like the momentum shifting for me a bit, where I'm like, okay, we're starting to get some of these other characters, and Flash is my favorite character in the Arrowverse. So,
okay.
And I kind of suspected that's what it was going to be anyway. But once he entered the show, I was like, all right, this is where we're getting some really good stuff. So I think that is part of it. I was kind of like the marker I would keep looking at. Like, I think my wife was out of town at this point, so I was just binging episodes as well, because it's before my son was born. So I'm just,
cool.
Just me and the dogs watching episodes. But it was kind of like the point where I'm like, oh, what episode does he show up in? And like trying to get there as fast as I could to be like, let's start getting into the greater Arrowverse world. And I think they handled it well. Like, when you start watching the show and you're like, this is very grounded. How are they going to, get a character like the Flash in here? And I think they set up the pieces very well in this episode.
I agree.
I'm really excited to revisit the next episode because it's been quite a bit. But
yeah, that's one of my favorites.
So that's going to be fun. But overall, just a really great time. The character moments in this with him and Felicity, I forgot how good those were. On top of that, you have some really good moments with Oliver, just with most of these characters, right?
Yeah.
It's a little different because this is an Arrow show. So I was like, I don't know how far I'm going in depth with the episode, but like there's not much of Barry here other than, him investigating the crime. So it's very more of like a find it as we're going type of situation. But yeah. So a little bit of trivia, like I said, is the first appearance of Barry Allen, and it was the backdoor pilot for The Flash, as well as the next episode, 3 Ghosts, like you said. So some fun pieces there. But Lance, thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you, man. Thanks for having me.
Any other thoughts on this episode before we wrap it up?
No, I love it. Stick around for the second part of this, 3 Ghosts. And from there, the Arrowverse was born.
Yeah, thank you. Where can people find all of your nice work and find you on socials?
You can find me at Sir Lance Laster on all of my social medias, and you can find me talking about all the things that make Arrow Arrow on Always Hold On to Arrow. And you can find myself and my partner Kev on Twitter at Do Not Fail Our Pod.
Awesome. How far are you guys in the air? Did you guys finish the whole show at this point? Or?
As of this recording, we are in the middle of season 7, so we're getting close.
Nice. Yeah, I had started looking for an Arrow podcast. Like I was like, oh, Lance is always talking about it on Always Hold On to Smallville. I just started watching Arrow, and then you guys were really mentioning spoilers, and I was like, I can't listen to this yet. So I'm gonna have to make my way back around to it. No, it's fine. It's fine. It's probably gonna end up being the same thing here. We were just spoiling all of these shows on here.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, I mean, that's the purpose sometimes of rewatch podcasts.
Sometimes, yeah.
Diving into this stuff.
Sometimes.
Getting into this stuff. For our podcast here, our socials are at enter_flashtime on Twitter. You can email us enterflashpod@gmail.com or find us on facebook.com/enterflashtime. I did a few episodes, what I was calling my preseason run-up to this, where I ranked every season of The Flash.
Oh, okay.
Every live action The Flash suit as well, I ranked over there. And I also talked a little bit about the first 3 issues of Absolute Flash, which I was really enjoying, by Jeff Lemire, which is a cool comic. I got to catch up on the last few issues of it. But okay. People can find my thoughts there. Those are on the episode feed before this one. And we will be having the next episode with my co-host from Soups and Sabers, where we were talking a lot of Superman in the run-up to Superman. Chris will be joining us for the second part of this.
Cool.
But yeah, so thank you, Lance, once again. Thank you all for watching and listening along, and we will catch you next time on Enter Flash Time.